Oh, here we go. We're recording. Welcome back. A new Lifecycle Insights Friday workshop. It is obviously not 6:10. We're just really lazy at updating slides. So let's call it 7:1, which it really is. Welcome to the second half of the year, guys. Hopefully you all closed out Q1 or Q2 in a good place. Today, though, we're going to talk about some stuff that I heard last week in my travels. All around what Q3 and Q4 might have in store for us. So if you were on the call with the seven-figure MSP partners earlier this week, it's going to be very similar content. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. But first, some housekeeping items. New to Lifecycle Insights, we start anew next week. On week 1. So if you're just getting started, come back and join us for that. We'll be there to help you guys find your way through the platform. As far as travels, we're going to be out and about a ton. We'll be at Build It in New Jersey, which may be the thing on this list that I'm the most excited about. They do apparently put on a heck of a show, most largely educational, which is kind of our favorite format. But before that, immediately after that, we'll be up at CompTIA in Chicago. Then we have IT Nation Connect coming up in November. We got DattoCon, big, seven-figure MSP in North Carolina. That's going to be a blast. We had some conversations around preparing the content for that today. So all good things coming. Lots of places where you can catch us traveling. I'm sure there'll be an Evolve peer group and some other stuff in the middle of that before the year ends. So lots of travel, lots of airline miles, all that fun stuff. So if you guys are going to be out and about, make sure you let us know. We'd love to come hang out with you. But we're just going to jump kind of right in because I had the privilege last week of meeting with a peer group that is some of what I would say are some of the more mature sales focused MSPs. These guys have dedicated cold callers, either on staff or outsourced. They do a lot to drive new business, to drive new revenues. And they had some pretty interesting conversation points for me. So I wanted to kind of ask you guys if you're seeing any trends and if those are changing at all. So I'll shut up for a minute and let you guys kind of hop off the mic and tell me, are you seeing more inbound leads, fewer inbound leads? FTAs are first time appointments if you're not a sales nerd. What are your close rates like? Where are you at on the value, the revenues, and what are those trends looking like? Tim's seeing an increase in first time appointments and price. I'm assuming that's objections.
Objections. Sorry, can't type on the
phone. But none of that surprises me. What does everybody else see?
Yeah, we have a group of dedicated business development analysts, people who are, on the phones, making calls. And they are, I would say, just from what I'm hearing, that they are experiencing an uptick in activity. Yeah. And as a result, an uptick in, closed opportunity, right? New business.
That's good.
I don't have a bunch of the other data, right?
Yep.
Just because I don't know about it, but it feels to me like that arm of marketing is busier than ever.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear an uptick in new sales because that kind of counters the trend that I heard last week. What I heard last week was first time appointments are through the roof. Some of these MSPs that are doing direct, dedicated appointment setters are seeing 25 and 30 first time appointments a quarter right now. I can't imagine the backlog that I would have trying to do that many. And some of these guys are bigger and dedicated to it. Some of them aren't much bigger. Some of them are kind of medium sized and trying to figure out how to deal with that uptick. As we talked through close rates, it got really interesting. These are guys who typically had 12 and 15 first time appointments a quarter, and we're closing 40% of them, maybe 50, 55% of them.
What's the attribution?
What's that?
What's the attribute? Like, why are we seeing so many more at bats?
So we're not sure yet. And we were kind of talking through that, and I will get there, but I'm not sure that we know. I have some thoughts and some ideas. And it all goes to, they're seeing way more first time appointments right now, but their close rates are somewhere a quarter of what they used to be. Some of these guys are seeing 10 and 12% close rates. So they're going on, a ton of calls, but they're just not getting them closed. And what the repeating trend was, the thing that they kept telling me was, we keep getting pushback on cost. And I talked a little bit at the event. Actually, I did a presentation and talked about a survey of cloud providers, from a cloud provider that surveyed hundreds of their customers. And what they asked their customers was, are you getting the right value from your MSP? And would you be interested in switching MSPs? 80% of their respondents said that for a more strategically focused MSP, they would leave tomorrow. 80%. Thought it was a huge number. Really what they went back to was that MSPs overall are not giving them the forecasting that they need. Now, these guys are a cloud provider, so their questions focused on, they're not able to help me forecast my Azure spend. They're not able to help me accurately adjust Azure spend or automatically adjust Azure spend. A lot of it went back to adjusting these cloud resources. And, if you're running a lot of servers in Azure, your pricing is tied to a million different levers, and it can be all over the place. But it was a really interesting conversation. I love that Kirk is doing a recession social media series. My concern for you guys is that you've been reading everyone else's recession social media series. And so we wanted to talk about this today in terms of telling everybody not to freak out, because I think what we're seeing here is that the bottom of the barrel, the folks that aren't being strategic, and I think the folks who aren't being strategic in the MSP space is a significant chunk, 50, 60, 70%, are just here still playing whack-a-mole with problems and not really being strategic for their partners. What I really wanted to talk about was, what we ought to be thinking about. We talked through it a lot here about the fact that the sales are becoming more competitive, the close rates are in the tank, everybody's got more price sensitivity as they're shopping. But then we talked about, oh my God, did you see that Netflix let go of 20% of their staff, or whatever the number was, and hundreds of layoffs? And they went through a list, and some guy came out and said, oh, there's a new Twitter I'm following, and it's tech layoffs or something on Twitter. And it's basically all these companies that are laying off and laying off and laying off. And this panic starts to run around the room. And I've seen a little bit of it on LinkedIn. Our favorite companies are laying people off, and they're going to go bankrupt, and the world is upside down. And I just wanted to take a second to step back. And Marnie, you might have some insight on this if you want to talk about it. But a lot, we need to step back and look at the difference between the MSP you work for and the cloud company that launched 3 to 5 years ago with the designation of unicorn, where they were going to 100x everybody's money by building something that had never been built before, or doing something with more automation than had ever been done before. And they took these huge influxes of capital to hire 50 developers and 200 account managers and a support team and all this before they had a profitability model. And I think what we're seeing is, and that's kind of my point over here, is MSPs shouldn't be freaking out. You are not Netflix. You are not, and I don't want to poke at anybody in this space, but you are not LionGuard. And I love the LionGuard team to death. We integrate with them. They're an example of someone who is still building a path to profitability. Yeah. And those folks who
burn down, right? So that's what you and I talk about, is the burn down that some companies have that took funding.
They have a burn rate, right?
Yeah. They could bottom out if they don't increase profitability, but folks that are already profitable they don't have to react the same way because they're not burning down, right?
They have much less of an urgency.
Yeah.
And Marnie's been in the ed tech and on the software side of this way longer than I have. She's seen this from different, working on the side of different PE firms, and as the lucky recipient of a few PE firms, there is a different world when you don't have to be profitable to raise money, to make money, to get paid. All of you guys have to get profitable to get paid. And I think that's different and important. So what's happening at Netflix is not what's happening to you guys in your space. However, probably some things we need to focus on. As I was talking to, and if you guys know anything about 7-Figure MSP and Chris Weiser, they have a pretty amazing sales tactic. They're very, very good at it. They coach a really good sales process. And even among their folks, we're having the conversation that as more and more folks lead with security alone no longer sets you apart. And so as we talk about recession and what it means for you guys, and it doesn't mean you have to let go of 25% of your workforce because you're never going to be able to raise another round of funding. That's just not the world you live in. You may never and hopefully will not even lose a customer in a recession, but all of your customers will retract a little bit. Somebody will have to lay somebody off. Somebody will not get a grant that they were supposed to get. Somebody's sales will go down. All of your customers individually will lose an employee here, an employee there, and an employee here, and an employee there. And if your average customer is 15 employees and each of them loses one employee, you've lost a good chunk of revenue, right? As you have to start scaling your contracts back to go along with them. So we want to kind of talk through what that really means. But as everybody starts to lead with risk, as MSPs, we have to find a way to differentiate. And I'm going to pick on Kirk because I think he has a real focus. And I'm going to pick on Kirk too, because Rafi's not here. At my event the other day, I used Rafi as an example. If you guys don't know him, Rafi is the cybersecurity expert for finance companies, right? He lives in that space. He knows that space. He understands that space. Kirk, you spend a ton of time in the legal space, right? It's kind of your niche.
I mean, I would say legal, to be honest, but what we do, I'm focusing more on new tech.
On what?
More recent new tech, like bionics companies. We've got a 3D printing industrial company.
I don't know why I thought it was you that was focused on the legal industry.
I don't know.
No, that's somebody else then. Okay.
But what we are focusing on is, when we're having the FTAs, is talking to them, when was the last time you checked your HR handbook for updates to work from home from BYOD? And then we're also talking to them about their cyber liability insurance.
You're fading away, man. We got to send you a better mic if we're going to bring you onto these things.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So let me put in the other earbud here. There we go. So we talk a lot about looking beyond just the normal, you can hire an MSP to do your break fix, to handle your servers, to do your updates. And that's all well and good. And if you want that type of service, that's great. But we're trying to differentiate ourselves as being more, as I say, we're trying to be professional service like your CPA, like your law firm, as opposed to being your janitorial outfit that, you call us when you need something clean. That's great, but how is that going to help you in the long term?
Right.
So from that perspective, we try to bring value to the technology as opposed to seeing it as a cost center. And that's how I approach the talks with clients. And many businesses are fine with what they've got going on, and that's great. And it's a 10 to 15 minute conversation and we're done. We move on to the next one. Well, for others, I kind of bring up how we are examining things beyond just the normal parts, the HR side, the cyber liability / insurance side. Do they realize that commercial bankers are starting to evaluate a business on their cybersecurity angles before they grant them funding? You're talking about funding, VCs, angels, even commercial loans. Banks are starting to get involved on possibly adding something like a D&B credit score of how secure a business is, because obviously they don't want to lend money to someone who's going to get ransomware 15 times because they're likely going to go under. So that's how we're trying to approach it is, there's risk, but are you aware of these other situations and how can we help you with that?
And, as we start to talk about what that differentiator really looks like, it's an exercise that I think we're going to really pick on when we go do some of these on-site and in-person events. We're actually going to have some conversations around that. At my MSP, our differentiator was pretty simple. We had a proven process that we knew worked. We talked about it in pre-sale. We talked about it, as we were introducing ourselves to a new customer, and all of our customers followed the process. And the ones who didn't had a miserable experience. They didn't have a great relationship with us. It wasn't a good fit. And the ones that did had a severe reduction in stupid things like malware and breaches and all that kind of stuff. And they just had a better experience. So if you have a process that's your thing, start using that as part of your differentiator. Just saying we're a cybersecurity first company or we're a risk forward or a risk management firm isn't going to get you there anymore. Everybody's talking about it. So I think, there is a lot of power in your process. I had a really interesting call with an MSP this week, and they impressed me so much when they said, our differentiator is that we answer the phone in 10 seconds or less. And you hear everybody talk about differentiation, and it's, oh, we have the smartest people. We answer the phone the fastest. We solve your problems the quickest. We only have we only have the best clients. We don't work with jerks, whatever. Those aren't real differentiators. Any salesman can claim that. It's a whole lot harder when you put a statistic next to it that says 10 seconds or less. We're going to call, we're going to grab the call. And the guy actually said to me, he came back and he said, I apologize that it took me so long to get Lifecycle Insights off the ground, because we merged with another company. We had some culture fit stuff, the stuff that just goes on. And he says, what we heard from our customers that we had lost our differentiator, which was that 10-second thing. And we had to take a step back from Lifecycle Insights and go focus on service delivery and solving the problem inside the business before we could come back and focus on this, because I knew that there were people who worked with me just because of that differentiator, and I had to go make it right. So if you guys don't know what your differentiator is, I think that should be an eye-opening experience for you, especially going into this kind of an economy. I think it's one of the things that will be hard for somebody else to come in and say, but I can do it for $5 less than Kirk does, or I can do it for $10 cheaper than Scott does. And now I'll be, we'll take care of all your problems. Don't worry. If you know your differentiator, if your clients know your differentiator, it gives you some sticking power, some staying power, and a relationship. And the other thing that I like about the things that Kirk's talking about, webinars, education events, doing all these things with your customers. These are relationship builders, so that when you get into a bad economy, you have the relationship with the customer, and they're at least more likely to come talk to you before they go anywhere. Alex Rogers used to say, in the MSP space, our contracts are cheap enough that nobody's going to go sue anybody over the contract, right? $3,000 a month for 36 months. We're halfway through it before the guy decides to leave. So $3,000 a month at 18 months, it's $50,000. I'm not going to be able to sue anybody for $50,000. The attorney's going to cost me that much. So all the contract is a speed bump to get the guy to come talk to you before he decides to leave. That's really what your relationship is too. It will help them be stickier, and God forbid there's a problem, it's the thing that will hopefully get your customer to come talk to you and kind of have that conversation.
And actually in our QBRs, we add the two things that I've added. One is I talk to them about succession plans, because you never know when an owner is going to die or something's going to happen and what happens next. So it's not even technology based. It's more business based. And I've added a new one on how do you foresee the recession affecting you? And I've had some really good conversations with businesses on, it's not going to affect us, and this is the reason why, or here's the steps that we're taking. And for us, that then allows us to say, okay, maybe we need to finance these projects. Maybe we need to help. And it's more business focused. And I get the appreciation from those companies of, it's not just, hey, your server's old, it needs to be replaced. It's like, how is business? How are things going for you? And they actually enjoy it at the end, because it's not, they come back and say, hey, at least you haven't, tried to sell us $50,000 worth of junk. We actually had a productive business meeting.
One of the things that I was going to say today was, there are hard conversations in a recession, and they all get made easier when you have them early. So, that agenda that you send over to your customer that says what's new and different in your industry, what are your business goals? Are you planning to grow or shrink or whatever? Replacing or supplementing those right now with, how do you see the recession impacting your business? And asking that question before every QBR, so you can go in ready to talk about it, is going to be incredibly valuable. So when you get ready to schedule these, go ask your customer, exactly what do you see happening? What do we think is going to change? And in your worst case scenario, how does technology help you? to make sure that we leave you in a better place. Because that's really the goal of our systems, right? Leave our customers in a better place than we found them. It's a great conversation. Same here, 1 year, but they leave after 6 months. We don't, yeah, I hear you. Like I said, I don't think there's any, Alex Rogers was right. Our contracts don't even really do a good job of trapping people if they don't really need to be there. There have been a lot of people talking about the 2008 recession. So I want to take a step back and talk about my 2008 recession story. If anybody else wants to share theirs, you're welcome to it. I've been around a long time. I'm now officially an old fart in the channel. So we can talk about, the last time we had a downtick in the economy. But quite clearly, 2008 was different. In 2008, Microsoft 365 didn't exist. We were still swapping backup tapes. The world was just different. So take all of this with a grain of salt and realize that your customers are more dependent today than ever on the cloud services you offer, on the things that are not subscription licensed and able to be held on to for an extra year so they don't have to spend money, or the things that would enable them to maybe cut the cord from you and walk away. But they also have shadow IT and have the belief that they could run on some shadow IT for a little while, and they might be tempted to throw the dice and take the gamble if they feel like technology is something that they can cut the cord on. So with all that being said, in 2008, we were a break fix shop in 2008. One of my biggest accounts was M&T Bank. You may have heard of them. They have a football stadium and some of that kind of stuff. Well, we did a little bit of work for M&T Bank in some little podunk regions of Delaware and the Eastern Shore, Maryland, where they didn't have any boots on the ground. They had an entire data center in Millsboro, Delaware, and not a single human being qualified to work in the data center. So we would we would swap servers in and out of racks in the data center. We would re-image hard drives in offices and in bank branches and things like that. They did 35 or 40 grand a year with us in break fix work. But because it was all break fix work, when the recession hit, a little local bank got tied up in the home lending and the whole thing that burst the bubble. They went under. The government came in and said, "You'll get bought out by M&T Bank. We'll make it happen. We'll just arrange it. Life will be good." When M&T Bank bought this other bank, they kept their local IT people on staff who now did all of the work that I used to do, and my phone just stopped ringing. So $3 grand a month just disappeared. Not a huge deal, except that I was a tiny little shop back then. I had been a break fix shop. I bought a break fix shop 4 years before this, in 2004. So 4 years in, hadn't converted to managed services yet. $3 grand a month disappeared. And then my clients started to feel the pain. All my nonprofit customers said, "Oh, the state of Delaware is not giving out as many grants as they used to. Money's tighter." We had to let somebody go. We had to shrink down just a little bit. Depending on who the client was, some of them retracted 15 and 20%. I had a pretty good sized client who was a furniture store down in Bethany Beach and Dewey Beach and down in Ocean City. And one day he called me and he said, "I owe you about $4 grand and I'm not going to be able to pay you." He said, "I'll send you something, but you won't get a full payment from me this month and probably not next month." And I went, "I get it. Okay." He communicated with me every single month, called me every single month, would send me a text message and, "Hey man, just want to let you know I'm sending off a payment. It's not in full. I apologize. We've been around for 30 years. We will make this right." And at the end of the day, he did pay me everything, but there were quite a few months where I had to figure out how to make payroll because he hadn't paid me. What we did successfully was, while our clients were contracting a little bit, we added a couple of clients. We had some folks who had reason to need technology. So we added a few new clients here and there. Between the adding of a couple of clients and the retraction of our other clients, though, all the new business was pretty much a wash, right? We went into 2008 with revenue here and we left 2008 with revenue in the exact same spot. In fact, 2009, we didn't grow at all either. We added a couple customers, but we didn't really grow. First half of 2010, totally stagnant. One of the few things that saved us, or that helped us a lot, was we had an employee go into the military. When he went into the military, we didn't fill his job. We didn't backfill. We had another employee leave, and I can't still for the life of me can't remember where she went or why she left, but we didn't backfill her job either. We were overstaffed. We were fat and lazy and not working very hard. I think we had 11 people in the office, and not nearly enough work to keep them all busy. So we just literally let some people as they left, not do anything about it. And then at the end, as things were probably at their worst, we had a spot where we had to sit down with the staff and say we have to make some tough decisions. Either we have to lay somebody off, or we need to discuss cutting everybody back to a 35-hour work week. And my staff decided they would take it as a team, and we wound up cutting everybody to a 35-hour work week. That lasted 5 or 6 weeks. It wasn't long. And then we were able to bring everybody back. But it was a really interesting, really sobering time for me as a small business owner. I was still brand new to it. I had no business running a business at that point in my life. I was still learning and growing as a human being. But there were a few things that we did right. And I want to talk through some of those because I think they are still very, very appropriate today. Automation and process. When you have nothing else to do, when the phone stops ringing, you have a lot of time to focus on automation and process. This is the point in my MSP when I hung a sign over my desk that said, if you have to do it twice, automate it. We knew we were going to shrink down on people. We knew we were going to add customers and not a ton of revenue. We started to work on automating processes. Some of that is on the QBR side, stuff you can do in Lifecycle Insights. Some of that is writing scripts for your RMM tool, getting your, using tools to do automation in your cloud services to make sure that you can configure multi-tenant clouds with a couple of clicks and configure all your clouds the same way. But building out process and automation in a downtime is a really, really good use of your time, because the folks who are the most dialed in, the folks who are operating the best, are the ones who are going to be successful in downtime. And I think that's a key differentiator for us. In the middle of that recession, my biggest customer, my biggest monthly customer came to me and said, we have to figure out how to cut costs. And they had 9 or 10 locations at that time scattered all throughout Delaware. And I said, well, there's this cool new thing, and these people have been calling me trying to sell me this stuff. It's called an RMM tool. And they tell me I can solve 85% of my tickets without having to roll a truck. And that should enable me to at least not charge you any more than I charge you today, and kind of flatten your rates and keep everything more predictable. So my big customer wrote me a $45,000 check. I called these guys in a basement in Ohio and said, hey, I'd like to buy this lab tech thing you've got. And I bought over 100 licenses of lab tech and deployed it. I think it was 150 licenses or something like that, and deployed it across all these machines. And then we became a managed service provider. That's how we did it. We did it all wrong, just like everybody at that point in time. We went and said, oh, this is how much they've been paying us. We'll figure out what that's been average over the last 18 months, and we'll just charge that much per month. And it'll just be the same price as what they did pay, but we'll flatten out the rate. Spent years fixing that. That's for another conversation and another discussion. But that was how automation played into it for us. We got the automation right. We got things dialed in. And when the recession started to let go, there was a lot of pent up need for technology, right? 2008, Windows XP is dying. Windows 10 or Windows 7 is getting rolled out. All of a sudden, clients hadn't been replacing machines for several years. We did almost our entire 2008 revenue in hardware sales between 2010 and 2011. We grew the business something like 45% in recurring revenue in 2011, and another 35% in 2012. We had almost essentially doubled our annual revenue by the end of 2012. I think we're going to see some of this in this go round. I don't know how bad the withdrawal will be, but along with it, I think that you guys need to be, everything you should be doing today is to prepare for and plan for pent up money in the economy, Windows 11 replacements to slow down, but then to all of a sudden need to go gangbusters when we come out of this thing. That should line up nicely with a chip shortage kind of ending and everybody having equipment to buy and sell. So I think it's really important to think about what we can do today that really sets us up for success coming out of this. And I would expect a lot of you who have been growing 10, 15, 20, 25% year over year to see a little bit of a pullback. You may be already seeing it. You may not be. Kirk started in 2010. That was a great time to start, right? It was just absolutely balling at that point, and we were just absolutely rolling. Yeah, I agree with Kirk. I think the recession can be good. I don't want everybody going into it blind and thinking that, we've been on a roll for so long that we just don't have anything to worry about. And that was kind of the conversation that I wanted to have. But I am not the guy running around going, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Netflix is laying people off. It's time to panic. I believe that where we talk about problems, we should talk about solutions. So here are some recommendations that I have, and then I'll shut up and let you guys talk and share your thoughts and your advice with me. I think this is a time to really revisit how we spend money as MSPs. If I were running an MSP today, I would be hoarding cash. Not out of panic. This is always hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So, if there's a big expense that you can put off for a year, drive that company truck one more year. Do a couple of the little easy, smart things to set some cash aside and make sure that if you have a lean time, you don't have to lay off your people. Our people right now, the biggest value, the biggest lifeblood in our business, and they're hard to find. Right. So let's make sure that we don't have to have discussions about layoffs. It's terrible for your people. It's terrible for your morale. If you have to do it twice, automate it. Now is the time to double down on automation. All those things that you've been looking at your business going, God, why do we do that the hard way every single quarter? Billing reconciliation, super example. The guys at Gradient are damn near giving it away. Go look at a way to automate your billing reconciliation. It takes 6 hours every month for somebody to go do billing reconciliation or more. It took us a whole day at my MSP. It was miserable. These are the things that it's time to go look at automating once and for all. If you're open to looking at verticals, or maybe you have a couple verticals already that you're maybe have a toe in, but you're not all the way into, there are verticals that are largely recession resistant. And you should sit and take those apart and think about those. Restaurant and hospitality can be just decimated by recession. Your local municipality, your local fire department, they will not lose all of their funding in the middle of a recession. So think about that. K-12 and education, where we did a lot of work, there was a lot of there will be a lot of business, recession or no. They'll still have to educate students. They'll still have to have teachers in the classroom. This is still going to be a thing. Revisit your differentiation. We kind of talked about that, but I would sit down and have a really tough conversation internally about differentiation. I think that's something that's an internal conversation. Todd, there was nobody who could do billing reconciliation at the time that I had my MSP. Gradient's too new. There wasn't anybody doing a good job of it. I had to do it all manually. Kirk, if you've got an idea, feel free to pipe in and help out there.
Yeah, I use a company called Vendella. So they connect into ConnectWise, and then they will do all my billing. They'll do QA, and then they'll give me like, hey, you've got a problem here, or everything's set, and then I can do a final QC on it on my side before sending it out. So it's taken like the 6 hour, and I'm lucky if I spend half hour on maybe something that may have been a mistake on my side, or something that didn't go through ConnectWise really.
Are they reconciling like, hey, you paid for 250 Microsoft 365 business premium plans and you only billed for 200 of them?
They can get that nitpicky,
Okay.
but we kind of do some internal stuff on our side. But what they will do is say, hey, the billing looks like 10% off on this, or this billing doesn't look correct, and so they'll kind of give you those types of factors of, you may want to double check on this because maybe the bill shot up 30% and maybe you billed the wrong way.
Got it. Yeah.
Or why is the billing off 30% on this? And so that way I can go into individual ones, as opposed to me having to go into every single client, every single agreement, and then have to double check everything. So
we had spreadsheets. Yeah, it was painful.
Yeah, I'll post the if people are interested, they can hit me up, and then I can kind of talk to them further.
Okay, perfect. And then the last thing I want to talk about is retention, because I think this one is super important, and it goes across all facets of your business. Retaining your current clients is key. It's cheaper to keep your existing clients than it is to buy new ones, you know, and I literally mean buy new ones, because you have to pay a sales guy, you have to pay somebody to go out and do cold calling, you have to, you know, go out and onboard a customer, which can cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And there's actually new money to be found in a lot of your client bases, even in a recession. You know, there is, if you can go out and add strategic value to your customer, if you can sit down with your customer and figure out how they ring the cash register, what is the thing in their business that helps them make money, and maybe help them automate that, right? We're talking about automation in our business. How many of you sit down with your customers and say, how can technology automate your business processes? What's the business process that takes too much time in your day? If you could replace anything in this business except the owner, what would it be, and how would it improve your life, right? If you're having those kind of conversations, things are moving in the right direction. And then you're starting to have that next level iteration with your customer. If you can add that level of strategic value, and I add the budget to this, right? There's no time in history where a budget for your customer is more important than rolling into the potential of 6, 12, 18 months of recession. Especially if 12 months from now, their spend goes up 40% and you're not going to tell them until 6 months from now, right? Let's get that in front of your customer today, so that they can start to prepare for whatever that looks like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now, and there's no surprises. If you don't have a relationship with a leasing vendor or a finance company, start that relationship today. If you get into the middle of a recession and your company or your customer doesn't have 40 grand to replace all the Windows 10 machines and upgrade them to Windows 11, but they can spring $600 a month, a finance company will be your saving grace, and you will look really popular for bringing them in. I used Great America at my MSP. They were fantastic. I can't say enough good things. I have no relationship with them. But if they want to send me a pocket full of cash, they can. We'll record this and put this on the internet, hint, hint. But no, they're a fantastic company. They're great to work with, and they understand MSPs. There are a lot of leasing companies out there that are designed around the copier industry and other industries. Great America understands you and your business model. So know that they're out there. Start that relationship today if you don't already have it with them or someone like them. I'm going to steal a quote from Chris Weiser. He stood on stage, Jesus, been probably almost a year now. And we were talking about, you know, just the difference between an expense and a budget. And he made the statement that I just dropped. I was like, that's a drop mic moment. You should just walk away here. And he said, expenses get cut, budgets don't. Especially if you work with states and municipalities and anybody who has encumbered money. If you get on the budget, you will be fine. You might get a 3% cut as they go through a recession. That's okay. I didn't realize Climb did financing, Kelly. I did a lot with Lifeboat, and they're fantastic to work with. And their CEO lives right where I was playing volleyball last night. He lives right here in Maryland. So Maryland boys go. And yeah, Climb was fantastic. I did all my Sophos stuff through them at my MSP. So expenses get cut, budgets don't. This is real world stuff. And how better to make sure you get on the budget than to deliver it. So dig into Lifecycle. Make sure that even if you don't have time for a full QBR, send all your customers their budget for the next 3 years and a separate one for the next 12 months. Hey, Mr. Customer, I'm just wrapping some stuff together really quickly for all of my partners because lots of stuff on the news that's got people in panic, and I don't want you to panic. I want you to be prepared. Here's what I think your budget needs to be for the next 12 months and the next 3 years. Look it over. Make sure none of it makes you panic. If it does, call me. Let's sit down and have a strategic conversation, right? Get those out to all your customers tomorrow. You know, this should be the thing that you guys work on as soon as you get back from your 4th of July weekend. Take Treason Day off and enjoy. But after that, after we have a good 4th of July, you guys should be, you know, back in the office and get those things done. I love that, Kelly. Build in the incidentals. I love the phrase total cost of ownership budgeting, right? Go give our customer everything from what do they spend with the copier guy to the, you know, the door access control system to the camera system that they plan to never replace, but we all know they're going to have to. Get all of those things on the budget. You get the Adobe licenses and the internet connected toaster subscription, whatever it is, get it on the budget so that your customer can see it all in one place, because they may very well look at it and go, hey, I don't want to damage my relationship with Kelly because she takes really good care of me, but I got to cut some money somewhere. Hey, Kelly, I got this thing over here we pay for Asana, and I'm thinking that that's a pretty expensive product. What else could I use for that? Well, you know what? Now Kelly has a project to move Asana into Microsoft Planner that they already pay for, and get them some more use out of an existing product that's tied tighter into their Microsoft 365 world, right? So get the budget out there, have those conversations, and maybe lead with some of those ideas. If money got tight, this is someplace I think you could cut. It's a great product. I know you love it, but if things got stupid, this is something we could do elsewhere. Lastly, I'll say, or the last two here, invest in your people. Not only are people hard to come by right now, they're just like customers. It's way cheaper to keep your people, to keep them happy and take care of them, than it is to hire somebody new in this and hire somebody fresh in this economy, in this space, right? We all know the new folks coming in have all the leverage. They got 6 job offers, 47 interviews. They could come to work for you, or they can go to work for Google, and they're going to have choices. So make sure you invest in your people. Don't give them a reason to go look in a tough economy. Be transparent with them. Like, if you're in a good place and you're planning for this, don't run around the office letting them see you freak out planning for this. Let your customers know. Okay, we're aware the economy might get a little stupid. We're planning for it now so that you don't have to worry. We're going to make sure that we have a plan in place that you guys are taken care of and that we can get through this. And then the last I'll say is have tough conversations early. We did it at my MSP, both with customers and with employees. If it starts to look worse than you thought, if a customer starts ghosting you on invoices, bills stop, auto pay stops working, whatever, and a customer starts to fall behind, go have that tough conversation with them early. If you have the conversation, and they'll communicate with you, they'll pay you a little something every month, they may come out the back end one of your best and favorite customers, regardless of having fallen on tough times, if you're in a position to be able to work with them like that. Same with your employees, right? If something changes in their life, you want to be able to communicate with them. You want them to know they can communicate with you. Sometimes it's not about they're worried about losing their job with you. Sometimes it's that their significant other lost their job and they're in a bad place because of something that you had no control over. You need to be able to have that conversation with them and make sure that your people are okay when they go home, because mental health is really tough in our industry. Our industry is hard on people, and we know it. So, we need to make sure and pay attention to it. So those are the ones that I'll point back to. And I will say that customer of mine that at one point was paying me $25 a month. By the end of the recession, we had talked every single month because he called me every time. And he had kind of become a mentor to me. And when I sold my company, he called me and was like, "Hey man, I just want to say congratulations." And he was the only customer who called me on my personal cell phone to have that conversation and wish me well, instead of go, "Oh man, I'm so sorry you guys are leaving. I'm really worried about what's going to happen to me." So you can build relationships. You can really build things in these kind in this kind of an economy. It just might open the door for some new and interesting conversations with you and your customers. So approach it early. Have those conversations up front, and I would encourage you to start having them as soon as you get back from 4th of July weekend. So with that, I'll shut up and let anybody else who wants to talk through their story kind of add to what I've said or contradict what I've said. These are just one man's opinions. So feel free to weigh in. Anybody? All silence. Well, you guys gave us some good ideas. So
I think one of the things we found back then too was actually, people were cutting staff, but then they still needed IT services. So I think it actually evened out, like you were saying, that, you don't have to worry about some of these things if you have good processes in place and stuff like that too. So,
yep. I think it'll impact growth. I don't think it'll be putting a bunch of folks out of business. And I think all it's going to do is postpone growth for a year or two.
Yep.
And so if we approach it with that mindset, and let's hope I'm wrong. Let's hope everybody has a 20% increase in, early next year, in the second half of this year. Let's hope we're wrong. But I think all signs are pointing to, we just have to be optimistic and yet realistic at the same time. So
I would add that we saw a good opportunity to be on both sides of that personnel impact. Scoop up good people right? That may be leaving a system administrator, in-house job, even at, from your customer. Hey, we got to let this guy go. Sorry. Can you guys help us more, right? So that's an opportunity to, increase your
Well,
revenue with the customer. Or
you can do
grab-
co-managed IT in some places too, where they've got to let a guy go. That may create opportunity for you as well if you have openings. If somebody else is laying off, to
Right.
Scott's point.
Yeah. And then the other side of that would be to then place somebody, have a customer say, boy, all these services with you and it's getting expensive. And, maybe can you help us find, an in-house guy and that can help us reduce some things. So if you have a customer that's absolutely adamant about that direction, to take a perspective of, well, let me help you. Let me go into my network and see if I can find somebody. It reduces your risk on the back end of, a stranger coming in who has some other relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And those relationships are key, right? If you see your customer letting key people go, that's another place to leverage those relationships. If you can help that person find a job, if you can even just follow up with that person and make sure that they're okay when they land wherever they're going, they may have opportunity for you. They may be able to come in, they may be able to come in as the person with a relationship with a stranger to bring you into an organization that's looking at how to cut costs and how to manage costs. So there's a lot of creative ways to look at this stuff. And so Scott's making some great points there.
I was going to say, vendor management, we always offered it, but ever since, now I'm the account manager, we have so much more talking about it. They're using us so much more. I mean, now we're a strategic partner in all of those decisions. And I mean, they're reaching out for everything, not even just like copy vendors, like what do we use for this software? Can someone build us this software? So it's another great way, but I definitely see them relying more and more on us for vendor management.
And that's so much better than, hey, we bought this software. Will you make it work?
Yeah,
Not that
talk to us
anybody ever
first.
called
Don't
me
buy
that.
it.
Yeah. Not that anybody ever called me and asked me that, but yeah.
It took a long time.
It does. It's always a work in progress, right? They'll backslide the minute that somebody in marketing wants to go use their favorite tool. But yeah, those are great points. So I feel like that's kind of a downer conversation on a Friday, and I don't mean it to be. And maybe it's just because it's getting cloudy out here and it's starting to look gloomy out my window. But I don't mean it to be. I think this is a weekend where it'd be nice for everybody to get away and get a breath of fresh air. Hopefully, everybody has a resilient weekend, a secure and safe weekend, because traditionally holidays are when dumb things happen. So just keep an extra eye on your alerts. Don't get away from your family, but check the alerts, check the silly stuff, and make sure that you guys have a good weekend. If anybody gets in a position where you feel like something's changing in your business and you just need somebody to talk to, I know we are a vendor, but we're here for you. So if you need to talk, Marnie and I are here. Feel free to grab us on our calendars or just shoot us a message. We're happy to chat through this kind of stuff, help you find creative solutions, or introduce you to people on our networks and those kind of things. I'll end it with one last thing. There might be opportunity for merger and acquisition in this too. If you're a larger provider, or even just a provider who's got a crosstown competitor who you have a friendly competitor across town, that's one more that I don't think we really touched on that you might just keep an eye on as you work through this. So with that, we'll wish all you guys a great, happy 4th of July. Marnie, do you have anything to close up on? You got any passing thoughts or anything we need to wrap up on?
No, I think what you said is absolutely correct. And we're always here to chat if somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Marnie and Alex. Alex didn't say that I should be able to chat with you guys, so I'm not gonna put myself out there. I'm just kidding. You guys can.
If you guys haven't, has everybody here met Mark already? I don't even know. Mark
You
is
guys
our
don't.
newest customer success manager. We absolutely should have introduced him again this week, because I know we got some new faces here this week. So Mark, everyone.
Hey, I'm the new guy. So
See his name in your inbox. That's from us.
There you
Yes.
go. There you go.
yeah, please, it's me. I'm real.
Oh,
I'm here
great.
for you guys.
Greg, that's a great conversation. What in your business could be automated? I think that could be an interesting Friday conversation. And I'll tell you what, if everybody wants to take 60 seconds and just think about something in your business that you've automated that you think is cool and that everybody else might not have thought of, It might be, and not just in your MSP, but in your clients' businesses. Because Greg's right. It's easy to go into your customer and go, hey, what automation can we build for you? And they go, nothing. Right. Do you have any unknown unknowns? Yeah. The best way I heard it phrased was Cindy Phillips over at Seven Figure, who said, if you could replace or change anything in your business except the owner, what would it be? And just ask the staff that, not the owner, not the guy who sits atop the ivory tower, but the doers, the people who actually do the work. And they might tell you where they spend a lot of time on manual stuff. But that would be a great one. If you guys have any great success stories about how you've automated something for a customer, I think that would be an awesome Friday conversation. Let's not come to a life cycle call on a Saturday. And I'd be happy to host that. If you guys have some ideas, if you have an awesome win or a great story, feel free to send it into our email. You can send them all here. I will say we had a great relationship with a Dynamics 365 developer who would streamline and automate all kinds of things for our customers. And we had customers ditch 2, 3, 4 systems and dump it all into Dynamics 365. And that was a cool relationship because it seemed like no matter what they wanted to do, if it was around contacts or cases or trouble tickets or whatever, 365 seemed to be pretty flexible and capable of doing it. So there's some interesting things around that. And it got rid of access, which was the bane of my existence for the first 15 of the 17 years I owned my MSP. So the guy I see, the guys I see laughing, I know have administered access. So, all right, guys.
I have one just brief question. The invite to the Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Where can I find that reoccurring meeting schedule data? The new to Wednesday.
Yep. I will.
Marnie, you get him added to that?
Yeah, I'll make sure you're on the list, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I had it at some point. It's gone.
We only schedule it when we invite you to it. I think we only invite you for 4 weeks. Is that right, Marnie? So that it doesn't
Get a 5-week invite. So
5-week
it's
invite.
off your calendar, but I'll make sure you're on it.
Yep. Perfect. All righty. And with that, we'll let you guys go enjoy a beer for your 4th of July weekend. So have at it. Tell the boss I said you could, and go for it. Happy and safe. Exactly, Keith. Take care, guys.